My colleague, Victor Blackwell, has more on that.
Thank you, Phil. If we go behind the podium, you can see two green buttons. On Kamala's podium, the left-hand button will mute Donald Trump's microphone. The right-hand button is a panic button and will cut the debate feed completely and play a pre-recorded message that Kamala Harris has contracted monkeypox and must leave the studio immediately. Back to you, Phil.
By agreeing to participate in this debate, both campaigns and candidates have also agreed to abide by these rules. The CNN presidential debate airs live at 9 p.m. Eastern.
Okay, that was great, guys. Can we go one more time, though? Take Kamala's notes off the podium and don't tell them what the buttons do this time. Oh, and Derek, can you tell Phil to be a darling and stop looking at the teleprompter all the time? It looks like he's watching a tennis match.
Another day, another Kamala Harris humiliation. You just love to see it. I know that you do. I love to report on it. So glad to have you here with me. I hope that you're enjoying my coverage of the Kamala nomenon, or cacklementum, screeching to a halt. Well, Thursday night, that's the night. I'll be streaming, by the way, at 8 Eastern. We will be watching the interview on CNN of Kamala Harris. Now, of course, Kamala Harris could not attend this interview alone. She has Tim Walz there with her, and it's on, of course, a friendly network in CNN, and it's pre-recorded, so they're going to cut out any flubs or any embarrassing answers. If CNN leaves any shred of normalcy in this interview, I will be shocked. But remember, make sure you follow me over on Rumble. I probably won't be able to stream it on YouTube because YouTube will probably take advantage of DMCA and stop me. So make sure you download the Rumble app if you want to watch it with me on Thursday night. Rumble.com/C/The Quartering. Very easy to find. Also, huge shout out. Last chance to get our summer flavors over on Coffee Brand Coffee, and they're 20% off. That's it. Once they're gone, they're gone. Your last chance to get them, and you're getting them super cheap with the code LASTCHANCESUMMER. We're bringing in the fall flavors in September. Now's the time to stock up. Hazelnut churro, blackberry cream, orange creamsicle, s'mores. You can get the whole bean. You can throw it in your freezer. This stuff, you can pick it up and make it last. But when we say limited time, we mean it, unlike a lot of other people. So this is it. Link in the description below to our summer flavors. Now, the media themselves are making fun of it. CNN themselves are making fun of it. Here's the article from New York Post, which is obviously right-leaning, so it's not surprising that they would make fun of it. Kamala Harris dragged even on CNN for weak sauce decision to bring Tim Walz to first interview shows a stunning lack of confidence. Vice President Kamala Harris is facing backlash for opting to bring her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Horsejuice Walz, to their first interview since President Biden dropped out of his re-election bid, with critics insisting it's weak sauce move and shows her lack of confidence. Well, of course it shows her lack of confidence every time she opens her mouth. And again, something comes out of it instead of something going into it. Things go bad for the polls. Now, national polls, according to 538 and Nate Silver, still have Kamala Harris up 2 or 3 points. I'd like to see that gap narrowed a little bit. I don't necessarily care if Trump is quote unquote leading, but I'd like to see a little bit closer. The betting markets have Trump up by 1 point. Again, directional only. CNN does have a few viewers left and perhaps a few undecideds. So this quote interview, which will simply be a 90-minute campaign ad, which again, we're watching together on Rumble. So download the Rumble app, follow the quartering, and tune in Thursday night. Or of course, tune in on Quartercast or Rumble every weekday at 1 Eastern. I'll be live with Styx Hexenhammer today. Harris 59 has appeared, slated to appear alongside her number 2 for the joint interview that'll air on CNN Thursday night. The decision was quickly ripped by those who accused Democratic presidential nominee of using Walz as a crutch, as she braces to defend her record and policies after weeks of avoiding such an exchange. She's not going to get asked any questions. Do you think CNN is going to ask her, hey, is it possible that are you building the wall or not? You know, that are you building the wall? Because people are saying you're building the wall. Are you doing price fixing or not? You know that's communist stuff, right? They can ask her about any of her policies, her ridiculous promise to quote unquote fix the housing market. How exactly? If it makes you wonder as a voter, what kind of president would you be? He continued, I think Republicans are going to think it's pretty weak to show up effectively with someone who will take up half the time. Others also piled on, including some that pointed to Harris's history of word salads and gaffes as a reason Democrats potentially don't trust her to go solo. LOL, a joint interview. She simply cannot be left unattended, one person wrote on X. Another wrote, Democrats are so terrified to let Harris out of the basement without adult supervision that they're sending Walz with her for her first interview she's giving as a nominee to keep an eye on things. Amazing. Can't interview by herself because they know the woman can't talk without word salad coming out of her mouth. One user tweeted, Harris, who has a long career in the public eye, has been ridiculed previously for struggling to counter criticism levied against her, including a role as Biden's so-called border czar. Will they ask her about border czar? Here's an example of a classic Kamala word salad. Oh my God, I can't wait to tell you guys about tailgates for number4trump.com. It's coming along nicely. We've got recipes. We've got party games. We've got resources to help convince undecided voters. I can't wait. We're going to have a soft launch tomorrow. The site's up, but it's not done. So it'll be semi-done tomorrow. But anyway, reporter asked question about dialing back DEI program. Harris rambles about teaching history.
On a different front, Axios this week reported that President Trump, if he gets a second term, will sort of dial back, for lack of a better term, DEI programs that the Biden administration has put in forth. Obviously, I know you disagree with that. I obviously believe that you don't want him to get a second term. That said, if that does happen, what do you think that would do to race relations in this country?
Nothing.
Well, let me say we're going to win, so it's not going to happen. But I think that, listen, today is actually, I believe, an anniversary in terms of Dr. King.
What?
And I was just in Selma, and we acknowledged the 59th anniversary of Bloody Sunday. I think it's really important that we as Americans always embrace our history.
What?
The parts that we're proud of and the parts that we're not proud of.
Literally, what? She's a deer in headlights, freaking out before he even finishes asking his question. I mean, again, it's like the continent of Hawaii, like that. She's that bad. Of course, CNN has a live countdown meter for the Kamala Harris first media interview. Absolutely humiliating. 46 hours, 33 minutes, 20 seconds, an exclusive interview. They're not going to ask her a single hard question. They're not asking this woman anything. Zip, zero. Nothing. Meanwhile, Democrats, Jimmy Dore writes, this is called election rigging. It's what the Democrats excel at, and they have an establishment corporate media to cover for it. Democracy was never on the ballot. Tyranny, corruption, and authoritarianism was on the ballot. This is Colin Rugg saying, in days after Robert F. Kennedy Jr. accused the left of dismantling democracy and by interfering in elections through the courts and media, Democrats are forcing him to remain on the ballot in Michigan and Wisconsin so they can try to take votes away from Trump. RFK reveals he's being forced to cough up $10 million to defend himself in court. Jack Smith filed a superseding indictment against Trump. Mike Zuckerberg confirms that the Biden-Harris administration pressure met on censoring Americans, and the media has launched multiple slander campaigns against RFK. I mean, it's like you have Politico getting absolutely our corrupt leadership. Vance tries to tether Harris to Biden. Community notes say Kamala Harris is currently serving as the vice president of the United States for the Biden-Harris administration, a role which she was sworn into January 20th, 2021. What do you mean trying to tether her? What does that even mean? She is a part of the corrupt administration. She is a part of the administration. Charlie Kirk writes, the Kamala campaign is playing massive defense right now. They see the internal polling. The American people see through her as a radical. So she's willing to fake being a moderate just long enough to get power, lies, all of it. If the American people elect her, they will be electing a figment of David Plouffe and Anita Dunn's imaginations. You also have this, Cornel West, who is a lunatic lefty who will steal votes from Kamala Harris. I'm sorry, take votes from her, not steal them. That Kamala Harris and the DNC tried to bribe him with money and a job in the administration if he dropped out and endorsed Kamala. Why isn't this in the national news?
Did they just one more on this? Did they offer you? Did they offer you a cabinet position, a lower position, and offer to pay off any of your campaign debt?
Well, they offered serious substantive conversation about all of those that could lead toward some real
Gotcha.
I mean, he's not really confirming it, but he is. Then you have the CNN Scott Jennings rains on his own network's parade, rips Kamala Harris for including Walls in CNN's big exclusive interview.
I do think people are going to bring that up. Look, I have great confidence in Dana and CNN to do this. I think it's incredibly weak sauce to show up with your running mate.
By the way, old guys saying weak sauce is kind of weak sauce. But anyway.
The fact that they don't have enough confidence in her to let her sit herself, the actual top of the ticket, and do a single interview. In fact, I think the hand-wringing and the gyrations over this over the last month show a troubling lack of confidence in her political ability, which also makes you wonder as a voter, well, what kind of president would you be if this kind of a small-time decision, can we do an interview or not, what does that look like for your decision-making process, so on? So, yes, I think Republicans are going to think it's pretty weak to show up.
I mean, yeah. I do want to point out that aired on CNN. You know, and I think, yeah, I mean, of course, Republicans are going to make fun of it, you know, of course. But ultimately, it's whether or not the few undecided voters that remain watching CNN because they fell asleep before, you know, they could change a station. It's going to come down to whether or not they believe that it looks weak, because I believe that it looks incredibly weak. I think the motions to keep RFK Jr. on the ballot are incredibly, incredibly weak. Essentially, the reason that matters is in battleground states like Michigan and Wisconsin, they are hoping that people vote for RFK Jr. instead of Trump. Now, in my opinion, I think that he could uno reverso this, make sure he campaigns in Michigan and Wisconsin, mobilizes the RFK base, and reminds them to vote for Trump. The people that don't show up or aren't paying attention any longer, we're probably going to vote for Kamala Harris anyway. All RFK has to do is show up in Wisconsin, in Michigan, mobilize his base to vote for Trump. I don't see that as it's a desperate, pathetic move by Democrats, but I don't really see it as the major bombshell. I mean, obviously it's interfering in my opinion, but hopefully he does that. Again, when you look at the various markets out there, there's a 1 cent difference, basically effectively even in the betting markets. In Vegas, they're effectively even. The polling sites are all over the place. There hasn't been any good polling data, especially in swing states, in almost a month. Right now, all I can say is I'm going to be doing the best I can to mobilize. It's going to come down to voter turnout and voter enthusiasm. That is what's going to win this election. Vote early, in person, cast your vote for Trump, bank your vote, and then spend the next 2 weeks finding at least one other person. Think about the power that you have. Somebody who's like, corporations and big businesses can't incentivize people. And I'm not saying you do that. But, maybe you've got an uncle or a friend who hasn't voted in a while and you're looking for a reason to go out to dinner or something like that or whatever. Find a way to talk about it and go with them. Sometimes voting's intimidating. Go with them and tell them about how cool it feels to cast your vote, because it really does. I hope you enjoyed this video. Can't wait to see you all live today at 1 Eastern, tomorrow at 1 Eastern, and then again tomorrow night for the Kamala Nomenon on CNN. And we'll talk to you again real soon.